Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. We have a really exciting, fun, and cool candidate for you today, and that is Seth Walsh. He is running to be the next state treasurer of Ohio. Seth is a recognized community development leader who has prioritized keeping Cincinnati growing, vibrant, and safe. As treasurer of state, Seth will ensure the state's investments, pension funds, and revenue are managed with integrity and are used to strengthen our communities so all Ohioans thrive. Seth served as executive director of the College Hill Urban Redevelopment Corporation before he was appointed to Cincinnati City Council in December 2022. Seth is a member of the Cincinnati Retirement System Board of Trustees. He graduated from Xavier University and later founded the Cincy Soccer League. He lives in the Cincinnati Business District with his two dogs, Calvin and Rosie. And maybe you're sitting here thinking, Ohio Treasurer, boring. I promise you this interview is anything but. It is so fun. Seth is just like such a normal, real dude, and he's going to be such an excellent treasurer for us. And he tells you all about why in a way that is like very engaging and very understandable. So we know you'll enjoy this one.
Hey, Seth, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course, we're super excited to talk. We've been chatting via the interwebs, well, via the social media interwebs, and now it's just the video call interwebs, but we are nonetheless excited to chat. So, you went from Xavier Student Body President to Cincinnati City Council. What made you decide the next best place you can make an impact is the Ohio Treasurer's Office?
Well, I'll start by saying I went from Xavier Student Body President to nonprofits. And I spent 10 years working in community development in Cincinnati here. The first 3 years, I was in this tiny neighborhood of Sedamsville, which is like just horribly disinvested in if you've never been to Sedamsville. The only thing that they really would talk about is the fact that Pete Rose learned how to play baseball there back in like the 50s. And there was a slumlord that owned almost 50% of the neighborhood. So it made it impossible to do like anything. And he's like the slumlord in the truest sense of the words. And so during my time in Sedamsville, I really kind of learned what the definition of community is when you're talking to these people who've lived in like every single house. It's one of the coolest traits about Sedamsville. They're like, oh, I lived in that house and that house and that house. I don't know how it works, but it's like just a thing in Sedamsville. And really realized that like they didn't really have a path forward in their redevelopment goals without the slumlord getting dislodged. And ultimately, they just wasn't money to keep me around. So I ended up in the neighborhood of College Hill where I spent the next 7 years and did the things I talk about a lot, which is the $85 million in redevelopment, 300 units of housing, 20 new businesses, a park, some really cool events. But along that way, I kept pushing the ball for Sedamsville. And ultimately, the slumlord got sued by an individual and then the city and then the federal government for federal fair housing practice violations and got dislodged from being the slumlord right after I got appointed to city council. So I had a whole career by the time he got dislodged. And I say all that because it really kind of helped me become a better city councilman. But then as I was on city council, I realized like the problems that I was frustrated with in College Hill and Sedamsville are universal around Cincinnati. And then in recent months of recent years, realized like it's all around the state of Ohio. Like the story of Sedamsville is way more common than I think we realize. And even with my altruistic optimism that I had in my early 20s, I could only make it there 3 years before the money ran out for me to do anything. And I had to get another job and keep pushing the ball. And 7 years later, now they have a chance, but they still don't have like the thing going yet. The state treasurer's office, though, has the ability. It oversees $280 billion, and $280 billion that can be invested back into our communities around Ohio could have a huge impact. And so it got me really excited about it. I think Amy Acton really inspired me as a candidate, frankly. That Amy and I had a conversation, and I like to tell this story. She'd probably be mortified that I tell this story, but when we met, we were at the Ohio Democratic Party headquarters, and she was doing her dishes. She had literally just come from a meeting. She had like a coffee mug, and she was literally hand washing her dishes in the sink as she's like talking to me about state treasurer. And she's like, "This is why we need you to run, Seth." I don't know that you can say no to a person who is literally hand washing their dishes despite all the hype and the momentum around them to be the next governor of Ohio, and to say like, no, this isn't the right time. And so those things kind of mix together. And I just see there's a huge opportunity to continue my career trajectory and to be part of a team with Amy at the top of it. I mean, that's just pretty inspirational.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. And we're excited you're running because we need young people, we need exciting candidates, and you are one of those. You
I
also bring
appreciate
a
that.
lot of great experience. Yeah, so we're really excited. So you kind of hinted at there's a lot of money that the treasurer's office is in charge of. Most Ohioans, I think including me and Sarah here, really have no idea what the treasurer's office actually controls day to day. So could you break that down for us in plain normal people terms? Like what will you actually be overseeing when you win in November?
Yeah. Well, first, Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people say like I'm 35, and a lot of people thank me for getting in the race and being young. I really thought a lot of people ran statewide in like their mid 30s, and I've been quite shocked to realize like that this is not normal. But it's been really nice how many people just like if you get out there and work hard, people like just treat you like you're ready to do the job. So that's been pretty cool. But what does the state treasurer's office oversee? Well, first off, I have a theory that the goal that most people have, including myself, is they actually don't want to know what the state treasurer's office does. They just want to make sure that their state treasurer doesn't end up in the newspaper. Because if you're a state treasurer in the newspaper, you probably just got indicted for something.
What if you're a state treasurer candidate in the newspaper or in an HBO documentary?
Well, there's probably some questions there, right? I'm sure we're going to talk about that later, right? But the job itself is fascinating. So the state treasurer, I say there's like three parts to it that we really have to understand. The first is that they oversee the 5 pensions in the state of Ohio. So the pensions housed within the treasurer's office, but but the pensions themselves are made up by their own individual boards, of which the treasurer can appoint people to those boards. Why I think that's really important, although we'll probably talk about this later, is that they're actually trying to strip away. So the boards themselves are made up of active members. So like if you're a teacher and you're an active teacher, you get a representative on there. They're made up of retired teachers. So if you were a teacher and you retired, you have a vote to who represents you, and then the political appointments. And so essentially kind of the balancing act to make sure that everyone's playing fair games. They're trying to take away the active and retirees' votes on these boards. So it's purely political appointments, which actually means the treasurer's office matters a lot more because they're going to be choosing a lot more power over who and how this money gets invested. And why does that matter? Again, we'll talk about it more, I'm sure, but some of these, the way this money has been invested, I mean, they put $500 million, like $500 million into a fund that had been bankrupted 3 years prior. Like it's insane when you dive in up. So that's number one that matters. Number two, I think I just talked about, it oversees $280 billion. And that's all the various funds that come into the state. And then we have to invest it. Where I was really successful in community development is I had to work with banks. And banks have to do what's called Community Reinvestment Act. And so there's really 4 components to the Community Reinvestment Act. It's grants, which I think we all traditionally think of, like if you're a nonprofit, you're going to get a grant. There's the lending capacity. And so like I want to buy a building, I need to go get money from a bank. Then there's volunteerism, which I think traditionally we would think of as like a neighborhood cleanup day. And then there's a fiscal literacy component to it. The volunteerism is where I think things get really fun in a bad way, because the way that you can get around this and get the same amount of credits as if you were doing some of the other ones is if you sit on the board. So that can be considered volunteerism, even if you never show up. And so in College Hill, we just didn't let you sit on our board. You had to give us grant money or you had to lend us money. And so then we could leverage the capital to go further and further and further. Now, the flip for the treasurer's office, so that $280 billion in investment, like what does that mean when I talk about it? Those same banks that decided to invest in College Hill or not invest in College Hill are now coming and asking the state to have our money to choose who they invest in. And so we can choose like, hey, who's the ones that actually follow the point 1 and 2 that are actually going to reinvest in our community? Or who are the banks that choose to just do like volunteerism that doesn't actually show up? And there's volunteerism that does show up, but like the kind of skirting around it. And we can choose to invest in those who are going to be the good players, because then they're going to put the money back into the communities. Because so much of what we talk about in terms of like where our communities have come up short is just that they don't have access to capital. I think people's minds are blown when you realize that if you want to start like a yoga studio today, which is what, some walls like this, some electrical, floor. Everyone wants a floor. Believe it or not, you don't get that right when you can get into some of these spaces. That can cost like $400,000 just day one to get it started up and running. There are banks that help you off with that, but like if you have a $400,000 just to start something minor that doesn't need a lot of money into it, it's really hard for small business to thrive. And then we wonder why our small businesses not happening, why they're not working. So the treasurer can choose to invest in banks that are then going to help bring that down. We'll talk about that later too. And then point 3, you have this fiduciary responsibility, but also as an elected official, you have just a moral responsibility to talk about issues and to use your voice, because people do cover us generally. And there are things like the teacher's pension we just talked about, but then there are things like the Cleveland Browns Stadium that the treasurer needs to be speaking out on and joining lawsuits about. And by joining the lawsuit, it actually brings the power of the state to make sure that we correct and rectify these things. The unclaimed funds that we're using to build the Cleveland Browns Stadium right now, people think it's just tax dollars, and it's not tax dollars. It's literally money that you guys may have worked a job and the paycheck just never got to you, and that money goes to the unclaimed funds. I worked a job right out of college for 7 days at Western Southern, where if someone had died and they didn't know, and you didn't know that you were the beneficiary, that money had to go to unclaimed funds. And so we had to try to find who those beneficiaries are. Yeah, you just never know, right? It's like maybe you had a falling out with the person didn't realize you died. And so the money's sitting there and you got to get it, right? Well, that money goes to unclaimed funds. So it's actually your money sitting on unclaimed funds. I personally had property taxes in escrow from a house I owned, $3,000. That was an unclaimed funds. Yeah, 3,000. And I only knew about it because I have that one nosy friend who was searching for themselves and then put in all their friends, and they saw that I had a bunch of money, and they're like, Seth, you need to get your money out of the unclaimed funds. Otherwise, I never would have searched,
Right.
Yeah.
But I've only ever worked in nonprofits, and I'm a city councilman. That's a part-time job. Like $3,000 is like a month's salary for me. Like that is a lot of money to just be sitting there that never got back to me, right? And then the last example is like in Cincinnati, we have an example recently of a child savings account. The thing that is created to break generational poverty, to send a kid to college. They had been open and the kid was like 5 or 6. And like 5 years later, the kid, guess what, wasn't in college yet. And so the money got closed and sent to the unclaimed funds. It's like, what are we doing here? Well, that's why the unclaimed funds exist, and that's good. And the treasurer's job is to get you your money back. But right now, the state is taking that money and building a football stadium.
Yeah, that's insane.
And the treasurer, who is the only officer with a fiduciary responsibility in the state right now, isn't even part of the lawsuit. And that's just insane to me. And so that's the third part of what this job is like, that's fiduciary responsibility. Join the lawsuit, be part of the lawsuit. Because right now it's just citizens who've sued and stopped it.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't piece that together. Like I knew there were some lawsuits, and obviously people are up in arms about it, as they should be. But that sounds like a whole lot of, or lacking a whole lot of accountability there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's all pay to play, right? I mean, not to put the finer point on it, but like, let's call it what it is, right? The state legislature is controlled by Republicans. They made the decision to move it. Who's the state treasurer? It's a Republican who decided not to join the lawsuit, because why would you want to embarrass your buddies like that? I mean,
Right.
Yeah,
no, don't worry.
handshakes happened with the Haslams behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
well, the other fun part actually is if the two lawyers that have really taken the lead and stopped this is Mark Dan, who was a Democrat elected Attorney General in 2006, and Jeff Crosman, who ran for Attorney General as a Democrat in 2022. Convenient that it's the Democrats that stopped it?
yeah.
I think not.
Yeah.
So we're kind of talking about bringing transparency to how Ohio manages its money. That's something that you are passionate about and would absolutely bring to this role. So what does that look like in practice? Like what's broken right now that you would want to fix on day one? Like executive order, Seth Walsh, go.
Treasurer executive order.
Well, day one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename the Link Deposit Program back to Mary Ellen Withrow Link Deposit Program, because the longest tenured woman as the state treasurer and only person to be the county, the state, and the national treasurer deserves to have something named after her in the treasurer's office. So that's item number one. I'll be honest there. And she's still alive, 95 years old. I mean, I asked her if she wanted to run in my stead, but she told me no. What would I do in terms of transparency? Well, first off, I mean, have you guys looked yourself up in unclaimed funds?
Did. Whenever the whole Browns thing went down, I was like, well, I'm going to double check.
Keep doing it. But, raising awareness is really critical. And what we're doing, I think we're doing really well on the social media component of this, but continuing to raise awareness, not just expecting you to come to us and be like, oh, do you have like my money randomly? Because I don't think anybody randomly thinks that, right? How do we start pinging you and targeting you? It's not hard to actually do that. We recently tried to look up the information, and there's like 3.5 terabytes worth of information of people whose money is sitting at the state right now. Yeah, it's insane. But there's a lot smarter people than me that know how to then use the information that the state has to then go message you. And imagine if instead of having to like hope and pray somebody calls you, instead the state was proactive and said, hey, Sarah, hey, Ashley, are you aware that you have unclaimed funds in the state of Ohio? And then if you actually go through the process too, it's also incredibly tedious. So from the time, like you have to get the forms printed off, which how many people have printers these days? Like that's a question in of itself. Then you got to get it notarized, which I think that's totally fine. It makes sense. I mean, it's a lot of money traditionally. Then you have to mail it to the state treasurer's office. And then they tell you it's somewhere between 6 and 9 months they're going to get back to you. In my case, when I did this, I actually moved in the middle of it. So then I had to track down their number to call them like, hey, I need that money. So I need to give you my new address. And they're like, sir, they were really nice about it. But at the same time, they're like, we can't expedite this. I'm like, I'm not asking you to expedite. I just need to have my new address because I moved and I still haven't got my money back. You're telling me there's not a faster way we can make that happen? Like, it's 2026. We can tell you that you have money there, and then we can make it a super efficient way that we can get the money there. And we don't have to hide behind like layers of bureaucracy anymore.
Yeah. We'll get back to you in 6 to 9 months.
Yeah. Which is almost as bad. I bought a book once, like 7 years ago. I love this series so much. And the author's like, I'm doing a special order. And I bought it 7 years ago, and I've moved 3 times since then. I still have to email him every time because I haven't got my book. I'm like, hey, Steve, just in case you need my address again, here it is.
Just in case you ever published that book.
Fingers crossed. He says he's 3 months out, but he's been saying that for like 6 years.
Okay, wait, sorry. What series is it?
It is so the series is The Lock. It's by Steve Alton. I shouldn't mock him and then actually name him, but he wrote the series The Meg, which had the breakout movie The Meg and The Meg 2. I didn't watch Meg 2, but it's like a 7-part series. And then The Lock is about the Loch Ness Monster, and they have a sequel coming out. And I love that type of stuff. And I mean, how do you make a sequel after I'm not going to spoil the book one, but I'm like, gotta see this, Steve. So literally every time I move, I'm like, I could ask for my $35 back or get his email and be like, this is my new address. When you publish the book, I need my book.
Well, I hope one day you get your book.
I'm so excited. Every time I get an update, I have like a group of friends I just forward it to. I'm like, hey, look, it's coming. It's not coming.
I'm going to have to look up the books. Me and Sarah love to read, so I was just curious.
Yeah.
Oh, great. We can join a book club.
Yeah, we can do a book club.
We'll both bombard Steve too. So maybe
yeah, we can sign up for the book and then be like, Steve, can we please have updates?
See?
Okay, let's bring it back to pensions for a minute.
Okay.
After that. Okay, so you already kind of talked about how important this role was for protecting those public pensions. You said there were 5. Can we go into what are those 5? And just like, can you more tangibly maybe explain it to us? Like what's at stake if those are mismanaged?
Yeah. All right. So, gosh, it's like a spelling bee. Can I get a language of origin on this one? So we got the teacher's pension. We have the school employees in pension. We have the police officers and firefighters. And then we have the state police. And then we have all governmental employees, which is a bit of a catch-all. So like Cincinnati is uniquely the only municipality in the state with our own pension system. But because of that, the electeds can't be part of it because we have to make decisions around it. So we are part of OPERS, the All Ohio Employee One. But so if you think about it in like a small town, most of their employees are part of OPERS, but then police and fire have their own separate one. Teachers have their own separate one. So let's start with what a pension is. Like just 101 here. A pension is where you work a certain number of years over a period of time with an entity or organization, in this case, any of those 5. And then when you hit a certain age, you then are guaranteed a monthly payment at a percentage of whatever you were making at the highest points of your career during that time frame. The reason it exists, is this is really Social Security designed to provide that safety net. It went back in the day where corporations believed that empowering their workers was the number one reason to have jobs as opposed to empowering the shareholders, right? And so the pension, you really only see it often existing in either like a deep family type business, like one of those corporations that really market themselves around it, or in like governmental situations, mostly because of all the union contracts that protect them. But a pension allows people to work these jobs knowing that, part of the sacrifice they make is that. So I guess the other part to make to this is, when you have a 401k, which I think a lot of people try to argue we should go to instead, 401k is a finite amount of money. It may be several $1 million to start with, but if you lived 120 years, like your 401k is going to run out. With a pension, you're basically guaranteed until death and your spouse's death based on whatever the boxes that you're checking. So the pension is a bigger liability for the corporations, which is why corporations are trying to move away from them. But as an employee, it's a huge benefit to say, hey, if I work 30 years of my career being a teacher, at the end of that 30 years and I retire, I have a pension for the rest of my life. I never have to worry again about where my salary is going to come from.
That's fun. Teacher one is that STRS?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay,
yep.
Cool. Piecing things together slowly.
Yeah, we love our acronyms, and if you go much further, you're gonna get me even something confused here. But so that's fundamentally what the pension is. Now, the political wins are, I think, what they're trying to move is shift everyone to a 401k because it reduces the liability of the state. That's just a conspiracy theory. I think it's a pretty clear conspiracy theory, but it is a conspiracy theory at this point. What's the danger here? Well, think about whoever your favorite second grade teacher was or third grade teacher, whoever it was. Like they gave the best years of their lives to educate us. There's people right now educating the next generation on the promise that we may not pay you as well as you can make doing another job in an equally hard profession, but we're going to take care of you on the back end. And now the investment that goes on is deciding essentially, are they going to have the money to pay these individuals long term? If a pension's not north of 75% liquidity strength, like they're heading toward downward spirals that could ultimately leave people that are working today or active retirees, new retirees, having no money when they retire. And so then they've paid into something that they don't get the money and benefit off of. And it collapses and becomes a huge problem. And so the risk that we have here is the reason that you have that three-prong approach. We have the active members, the retiree members, and then the political appointees. Political appointees are supposed to kind of be like the safeguard, to be like, hey guys, like, I know you guys want all the benefits. We can't afford that. That was the initial design for it. Then active retirees are supposed to be like, we worked hard. These are the promises that were made, and we're going to make sure these are committed. And it's supposed to create a natural tension, but with the intention of the pensions existing and being there long term. What they're trying to do is they're trying to remove two of the three legs. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so it's purely a political appointees. Now, if you want to go full-born conspiracy and corruption based on their history and scandals, I mean, look, my opponent was involved in the House Bill 6 stuff. Like, it's not that hard to make the logical jump to say, why would you not want to have check and balance in there? I don't know. I mean, take the next logical step, right? But let's not go that far, right? Just from a pure perspective, they've already made bad decisions from the political appointee positions. I mean, they've given money to former deputy treasurers where the money's gone missing and they can't get the money back. And the advantage is if you're a political appointee, like we talked about earlier, it's a lot easier to look the other way as opposed to being an active or retiree who's actually going to benefit or negatively be impacted by those decisions. And that's not to say like sure, they're part of the decision making as it is right now, but sometimes you don't know what's happening on the front end. You find out about it afterwards, and how you react on the afterwards that matters, which is why it's important you still have those voices at the table. And so cutting them out it's a dangerous road to start following.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I don't know about anyone else listening to this, but I'm not all that proud that Ohio is on an HBO special about corruption. And like, can we just, it's comical at this point. Like, no
It's an
wonder.
Emmy nominated too. I mean, that's the worst part. They just got nominated for an Emmy this week.
My God, it's comical. Like, it is just so evident to us here on this call that the change is needed, and there are some bad actors in, I'll say it, the Republican Party. But we're very direct here on United
Well,
She Stands.
no reason to hide it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So Ohio has had a lot of talk about growth that never seems to reach small towns or working class neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Ashley and I both grew up in really small towns, and so this kind of the rural Ohio and leaving it behind is something that is near and dear to our hearts. So how would your approach to state investment be different from what we've seen from the current office holders?
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk about this part of my origin story. I love NASA and I love the space race. And I always wanted to be an astronaut, except there's a couple things that got in the way. I wanted to work for NASA. One, pretty much the big one, is I get massively motion sick.
Me too.
So
I can like barely ride in the car.
pretty, right? Yeah, flying
We have
today.
a book for you to read about that, Seth, actually. It's more, I don't know if it's up your alley, but anyways, go ahead.
Are you going to help me get over my motion sickness? Are you telling me there's still
No,
hope?
it's just an astronaut story.
No, it's an astronaut who found out they severely suffer from motion sickness while in space. Anyway.
That's actually a true story. Apollo 8, that was a very real thing that happened. I can go off on a whole tangent here, but when they actually ended up in a big space capsule, they found out who was really motion sick or not. And then they sent him around the moon. I was like, well, what are we going to do about it? Come back when you come back. So I can't be an astronaut. I'm motion sick. And then point two, I'm just terrible at science. I'm like so bad at science. You don't want me launching people into space because they're not making it. That really ended my my NASA dream. So I guess we settled for politics. But the thing about Ohio is that we have 25 astronauts from Ohio, including Jim Lovell, the man from Apollo 13, John Glenn, a former U.S. senator and the first American to orbit the Earth, and Neil Armstrong himself, who walked on the moon first. We also have the Wright brothers from Ohio. We also lead the way in presidents, right? These famous people, Cora Dow has a connection to Ohio. And these famous people, they're not from Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. They're from the small rural communities around Ohio. And that's always been our strength. And what changed isn't that all of a sudden our rural communities stopped producing incredible talent. We stopped investing in them. And we stopped actually pushing and helping them be successful so that could be what comes out of these rural communities. And so to the fundamental point, I mean, this is why I'm in the race, because this is what my entire career has been about, is that how do you go into these communities and rebuild them to what their desires are? In College Hill, I spent 7 years there, and there's this building called the Hollywood Theater that everybody over a certain age, because it closed in 1994, when I was 3 years old, would tell you about how their parents would drop them off there on Saturday because they were annoying as kids and they would just want to have them watch the Saturday morning cartoons. They had their first kiss there. They fell in love there. They had their first breakup there. I'm like, all had these stories, right? I mean, it's like, it didn't matter who I talked to. They'd all tell me about this like incredible experience they had at Hollywood Theater. But again, it closed in 1994. And so they would tell it, but there was like this tinge of sadness because like I couldn't experience it. Their kids couldn't experience it. Like the neighborhood didn't have it anymore. And so during the pandemic, leading up to the pandemic, we bought the property and we did these engagement sessions. And to be clear, the Hollywood Theater literally had Hollywood Theater engraved across the top of it. So rookie mistake that I made, I did engagement session. I said, if it's not a theater, what should it be? And they'd be like, well, it says theater on it. So if you thought about a theater, like, okay, well, the point was not a theater, but that's on me. I learned that lesson. And then the pandemic hits. Okay, so there's no theaters. There's nothing happening in the first place. So I challenged my team at the time to like just find things to make it look like we were doing stuff still as we were trying to figure out the early stages of the pandemic. And we found an old movie screen. And we were innovative and bored in the height of the pandemic. And so we threw it off the back of the theater. And we said, it's going to be a one night only Hollywood drive-in theater. And within minutes, it sold out. And so then we were like, oh, it's Memorial Day weekend. We'll do it every night. And it sold out every night that weekend. And then we did it every weekend for the rest of the summer, extended it through the end of October, did double headers for September and October when the sun started setting. Did it again the next year. Over 10,000 people came both years to this event. The third year, we had to close it down because we actually rebuilt the parking lot to be a drive-in theater going forward because theaters still haven't made the comeback. You can't bring the building back as a theater, but we can bring back the heart of the Hollywood Drive-In Theater to it, right? A couple reached out to us and said, hey, can we get engaged at the Hollywood Drive-In Theater? Because that's where we had our first date during the pandemic.
Aw.
Yeah. And now when people talk about Hollywood Theater and College Hill, they don't talk about it with the sadness because they have new memories that came with it. What inspired them about the Hollywood Theater was the community of it. It was the fact that you had these memories associated. Now your kids and your grandkids and couples getting engaged, like it's back. It's a thing again. That's the question fundamentally about rural Ohio. That's the question about everywhere in Ohio. That's the question about Midwest, frankly, is we have all these communities that we think the answer is like a new job, but the answer, I think, is really like the community. How do we help rebuild the community? And the state treasurer's office, that $280 billion, can push these banks and investment groups to be like, no, we want you to invest in rebuilding that community again. Because when you rebuild the community, you rebuild the pride in the community and you help these communities, because we all know it. I grew up in small town too, right? Friday night after a football game, where'd you all go? Is it still there? And that, like, I think the answer for a lot is like, no, that's what we miss. And maybe that can't come back, but what's that new thing? And how do we invest in that new thing for these communities? Because that's what makes Ohio amazing. That's what gets people to stay here. That's what gets people to want to live here. Because I think about my future kids and like, I want them to have that experience. And the sadness of them not being able to do that, like that's a real thing. I don't know that I could put into words what that is, but I can tell you it's a real thing that like weighs on me. So yeah, that's like my inspiration for everything I do in my career.
Okay, so Seth, we all know you are the Democratic nominee in this race, which is amazing. What do you think is the clearest contrast between you and your vision in this office and your opponents?
Well, I mean, I think I have actual experience doing what I say that this office can do and actually rebuilding communities. I have actually experience of stepping out on issues that impact us, even if they're not directly tied to the job I have, like on Cincinnati City Council. I think I got pretty well known down here because we had a bridge catch on fire, which I didn't know was possible. I don't think many people knew was possible, but it was. And stepping out and saying, ODOT said it would take 3 years to get it fixed. And I went on TV every single night and they got it done in 100 days because you just have to hold them accountable. And then, thirdly, I think that we so often talk, to your point, about rural communities and how we can actually rebuild them, but we never actually have the tangibility behind it, which goes back to point number one. I know how we actually rebuild them. I know what the roadblocks are to get there, and I know how the treasurer's office can be leveraged to fix that. It can't solve everything. It's going to take all of us swimming in the right direction, but $280 billion invested right can have it go a long way. I think the other part of this question is the very first part of what I said to you guys. You don't want to open the newspaper or get online and see your state treasurer as the front page headline, because it's inevitably because they got indicted. My opponent is part of an Emmy-nominated documentary about corruption in the state of Ohio. You can't make this up. I don't have to tell you anything more about it other than you should just go watch it, because it's his own words. He was literally Larry Householder's number 2. The FBI recorded this man talking about the corruption. He deleted his text messages and claimed that that's like a convenient thing. Let me tell you, in Cincinnati, the law that I've been told is you can't delete your text messages for a year after you receive it as an elected official. Yeah, look up the Gang of Five. We know our text message laws down here. But this man, it's just he's already shown that he can't be trusted with the state's money. No matter what he tells you his vision is, he's already shown us what his vision is, and it's not for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually baffles me that, like, I don't know, just that, like, he's free. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's crazy. I mean, obviously, they couldn't stick whatever to him, but it's just and then running for office. I mean, it just feels like more and more the norm on especially on the Republican ticket is like, doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter how many awful, horrible things you've done, you're gonna be the ticket. And it's just like, we have to stop voting for those people. We have to stop letting them in
Yeah.
positions of power.
What's so
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it, sir.
I was just gonna. What's so funny about your opponent is so I went to OU, and yes,
You
obviously.
know, did you go to OU with him?
No, but I did literally I saw him everywhere. I swear. There were, posters, banners, flyers, whatever. He was at like all the big things. When I was in college, I didn't give two shits about politics, but obviously I knew he was like, an official of some sort, whatever. Fast forward to this race. I'm like, or the primary, and I'm like looking at candidates, and I'm like, why do I know this guy's face? And I'm like, oh my god, like I just like put it together, and it was just so funny. It was kind of like a jump scare. I was like, and then yeah, I did watch the HBO special, and yeah, it's it's not a good look.
No, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely not.
There's no HBO specials in the work about me that I know
Yeah.
of.
The question is,
Thank you
like,
for
how do we
making that
make
clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a good clarification. My question, though, is how do we make sure every single Ohioan sees the HBO special?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I need to know. Like,
Well, I mean, I think it's our patriotic duty as Ohioans to watch an Emmy-nominated documentary about us. Like, we should all
Right.
take great pride in that. And so my campaign even recently put out a congratulations to Jay
I
Edwards
did
for
see that.
being
It is
part of
very
that.
nice.
And, I think he should reshare that too. I mean, he should take pride in being part of an Emmy-nominated film documentary. We need people to help spread the word that that they should watch this. I think more and more people stumble into it just because it is Emmy-nominated. It's going to get a lot of publicity that way. We're doing our best to make sure it's out there. We've been trying to license it from the filmmakers to be able to take it on the road and make sure people can see it. Because if you don't need a subscription, let's just make sure you can watch it. I mean,
Yeah.
I really feel like we deserve some credit for how kind we're, trying to be here and hype up our opponent for being nominated for an Emmy. Like, that's a big deal. He should be proud of this. He should be touting this from the mountains.
I mean, yeah, you did make a whole video congratulating him. It was really honestly kind of you.
Yeah, like you're such a great opponent, like truly the bigger person here.
Yeah, thank you. He turned off the shares too, so you can't even see it in his profile. Like, Jay, you don't need to be humble. It's okay.
Yeah.
You
Like, let the
deserve
world see.
this. Yeah. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Well, we will for sure be linking the link to the HBO special in the show notes of this episode. So hopefully folks can find an HBO password and watch it until it becomes available to
Widely
those
available via your
Yeah.
campaign.
via Seth Walsh for treasurer.
I'm just saying, you don't want to know who your state treasurer is most times, right? Because this is what happens.
Exactly. Okay, so as you're campaigning across the state and talking to Ohioans, this is our favorite question to ask. What gives you hope right now?
Oh, man, I mean, I meet so many incredible people out in Ohio that when you're in Cincinnati kind of sometimes forgets it's Cincinnati, Ohio. We're just like, oh, we're Cincinnati. Getting out there and just seeing the incredible state that we have. It is a beautiful state. I don't think until you like really travel into all the various quadrants and regions that you realize like you can get anything you want in Ohio. You want farmland, we got farmland. You want mountains, we got mountains. Like you want cities, we got big city feel to it. And you want stormy weather, just drive north a couple hours. So you want like nice weather, drive south a couple hours, or vice versa. Like it depends on the day. But then you meet the people. And to my point earlier about like rural communities and what changed, like you can tell that what changed was our investment, not the people. The people are just so incredible when you get out there and you start talking to them. You talk to them about what their visions are and what their hopes are and what they're trying to do in these communities and what they like what's already happening in these communities. It's like we have a fantastic state, and I wish that the leadership, regardless of who it is, I just wish the leadership emboldened that and was like, heck yeah, let's make that happen. One of the things that has frustrated me as a local elected and just generally in my life, and so I like to like make this a refrain that I have, is that when you run from a scarcity mindset, you never get the big ideas. But when you say we can make the big things happen, then yeah, you get the man on the moon. And I think that Ohio, we so often belittle ourselves into this scarcity mindset. And the more I get out there, the more I'm like, why? Like, we're the 7th biggest state in the country, and we have so much going for us. People should want to be in Ohio, and they should come see us here in Ohio because it's so fun and it's so great. And even like the little fun things that make each community like unique. Like, did you know that there's a Moon Day in Wapakoneta where it's an actual holiday and actually celebrate Neil Armstrong walking on the moon? And as a NASA lover and a space lover, I'm like, God, I got to go there, right?
Yeah. You have a new
And then
date on
there's
your calendar every year.
yeah, I think it's July 20th, so next week. No pressure. There's also it's it's like what is it called? The Woolly
Woolly Bear
the
Festival.
Woolly so there's this
I
thing
knew
called the
about that
Woolly
one.
Bear yeah, in Vermilion. That's like it's just it's just like it's fun. Like this is what again, back to it's just what makes community again. And I think when we stop seeing ourselves as Democrats and Republicans and we start seeing ourselves as Ohioans, man, the sky's the limit for us.
Yeah. I love
Oh
that.
my
Is it
gosh, you need to be Ohio's official like CMO. Like, oh my gosh, the marketing you're doing for this state.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
was just
good
gonna say, I
though. Like
love that.
no one talks about Ohio like this.
Yeah. And I love it because the older I get, like, the more I love Ohio. Like, the more I love living here, the more I appreciate everything it has. Like, I just love to hear people hype Ohio. Okay, we're going to end with this. For everyone listening today who now obviously wants to help your campaign and is super excited that you are the Democratic candidate for treasurer, what can they do to help get you over this finish line in November? What's the best way to plug in right now and help you out?
Good. I love that question. All right, campaign team's gonna hate me because I'm not gonna start off with what they want me to say.
They want you to say money.
They want me to say money, and I'm not. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows that you need money to be able to get the message out. But here's where, I mean, I'll touch on that. But here's where we really need your help. We have designed our strategy with the concept and the belief that we can actually just talk to Ohioans again. And that nothing that I'm saying here is something that is partisan. What I'm talking about here is truly gritty Ohio. And if you believe in Ohio, then you should believe in Seth Walsh for state treasurer. And the way we're doing that is social media. Why? Because people spend 2 hours a day on their phones. They spend 2 hours a day on social media, regardless of your age. I know we like to say it's just like Gen Z and millennials. It's regardless of your age. I met with a woman who's about 83 up in northern Ohio, and I said that. She's like, "Oh, you mean it's like when that little alert pops up on your phone and says you spend 8 hours over the course of the week?" And I'm like, "No, that's the average per day over the course of the week." But like, it's true, and that's where the world has gone. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually have conversations with people using social media. We're trying to have conversations because I want you to know who Seth Walsh is, and it's the Seth Walsh you see on social media is the same Seth Walsh you would see if you sat next to me in the airport today while we were stranded for 5 hours. And the way to help us, one of the biggest ways to help us is to like, share, retweet, throw it up on the story, drop a goofy comment, and help us push it out there. Because the more people see it, the more people are going to know what's going on. Because to the point we keep talking about, I mean, let's not be delusional about it. People don't know the state treasurer's race, which allows somebody who has an HBO documentary about their corrupt acts to be able to skate by. Let's not let that happen. So help us just like it, share it, engage it, get it out there. Because if you can do that, it doesn't cost you money. It costs you half a second, and it will have a huge impact on what we're trying to do and get the word out there. So that's number one. Number two, money's always important, but you can join us for volunteering. SethWalshForOhio.com. There's a lot of options to sign up for the volunteer list, but donations are critical. And what I want to bring up here is when I got into politics, I thought because we talk about this all the time. You got to meet people that can write you $10,000 checks, $25,000 checks, right? The average donation in the 2018 treasurer's race was like $200. And they got like 4,000 people to donate to them to raise enough money to be able to really get their message out. And that $200 comes with them getting those $20,000 checks, which means that the median donation is probably like in the 20s, 50s. And that has a real impact. And so when we talk about social media too, for every $100 we raise, we can reach 10,000 people around the state of Ohio. And so no matter what you can contribute, it goes a long way. But if all you can do is just like and reshare what we're posting, that is just as powerful in so many ways. My campaign team's going to hate the way I just phrased that, but it's critical because engage with us, talk with us, and be part of the conversation with us, because I know that people believe in the Ohio that I'm talking about here because that's why we're here. And we do believe in it, but we've conditioned ourselves so much to say, but it's Ohio. Yeah, it is Ohio. And I'm proud to be part of Ohio. And I know a lot of people are proud to be part of Ohio. So let's just flip it. Stop having the scarcity mindset and let's flip it. So help share the message, but also donations are always appreciated. And if you can sign up and volunteer and knock doors, get out there, honking waves, whatever we're going to do, we'd love to have it. Show up for our screenings of the HBO nominated or Emmy nominated HBO series, be part of the kindness act that we're doing with Jay Edward.
Yeah. I love that. Also, I just want to really quickly say thank you for talking about social media.
Yes.
This is what happens when you get millennial candidates actually running for office. you understand the importance of social media. And so, like, it's just so refreshing. We've obviously been following your campaign, liking, sharing, doing all the things. We so appreciate you. We do believe that that's such a critical and important piece, and something that can definitely change kind of the outcome of this race. So we're so pumped to see you use it. We are also obviously building a social media movement and infrastructure behind that. And so it's just something we believe deeply in.
I will say, for anyone who's listening and they're like, I don't want to follow a candidate for state treasurer. Okay, his videos are funny.
They
Like
are
they are
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, pensions, STRS, which is great. That's why you came to this episode. We all need to understand. But like
Right.
when you're scrolling through Instagram, I promise it's gonna be a laugh when you see
Yeah.
Seth's
They're
face pop
good.
up.
It's good. It's good content.
We try. I mean, I don't believe politics has to be boring. I
Yes.
believe, I mean, we talk, we didn't get cursed as much as I wanted to curse. Um, it drives me bonkers when politicians aren't allowed to have alcohol in their hands. I'm like, why? You want to have a beer with me? I'm actually
Yeah.
way more fun when I have a beer in me. So like, yeah,
But
let's
also
take a
people
picture of me
wanna
having a beer.
elect people who they wanna have a beer with, so,
Yeah.
like
Right. So why I'm not gonna have a beer in my hand?
yeah, yeah,
Why can't I curse? Like I do curse, and when I'm really mad, I curse. But also, like from an elected official standpoint, like sometimes you just want to know what my opinion is on the Cincinnati Bengals, and like can they win the game or not? And let me tell you, I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, so I don't care. I live a
Oh,
block away, but I don't care.
didn't see that coming.
yeah, I did not after all that Ohio hype, I feel like that's
But
kind of a
it's actually
letdown.
my dad from Ohio was a Packers fan, so I'm the
Okay,
son of my
okay, okay.
father.
Fair enough.
But Ashley, on your point about social media, it is 100% the way of the future, and it's why Republicans win because
Yep.
they're really good at it, and it's where Democrats have to be, and we need to get over ourselves. That this concept that like we're too good for social media, yeah, that's the Democratic problem that we have. We're not too good for social media. We're just bad at it, and let's be
Yeah.
good at it. Let's actually have engaging content that people want to talk about because Democratic ideals are not unpopular.
Yep.
Democrats are because we're really boring and we want to bore you, but our ideals are not unpopular in the least bit. And so we really set out on this campaign. My campaign director, I feel like I need to make sure I give some appropriate credits here because I have the face for radio that gets the star in all the videos, but there's some really incredible smart people that are making this happen. So Lauren Worley is my campaign director. Lauren Worley was the press secretary at NASA
That's why you snagged her.
before. No,
Wow.
I wish that was why I signed her. No, it's because we're drinking buddies. She she's actually the inspiration for the Kristen Wiig character in The Martian from her time. Yeah, true story. She also tells me that she's the inspiration for Kristen Wiig's The Bridesmaids. I don't know that one to be a fact, but I can tell you
What?
the NASA
I
part's a
love the
fact.
breads.
But Lauren then went and worked at P&G, and she ran a brand that never once did a TV commercial. And if they can do it and be successful, why can't politicians? So that's part one. I just want to raise up Lauren, who's really grabbed the bull by the horns and
Yay,
convinced me.
Lauren, I know you're in the
Yeah.
room.
Yes.
And then, I don't know if I'm supposed to name her or not, so I'm not going to mention. You
Yeah,
guys
we
know
know her
who,
though.
but
We've been talking to her. Yeah.
we've got some geniuses working on the social media and the branding side. And these are women that are running it too, which I think is really important to raise up here. That, a man facing forward here, I want to make sure people know who's actually the one standing behind me, telling me how to do these things right. And the more I've learned to shut up and listen, the better that we do. And that is really critical. But the bigger part of this that gets me really excited is that what we've been doing, we set out just to prove that it could be done because our theory was nobody cares about the state treasurer. And so if we can make you care about state treasurer, you can make anybody care about any race. And I'm watching actively the transformation happen in Democratic politics in Ohio. And if we can turn Ohio blue, I truly think we're going to see Democrats around the nation realize like this schmuck running for state treasurer should not have gotten the traction he got. We can do that too, and we can do it better. And that's only a good thing for Democrats. And that I think is the way of the future for us. So I'm really glad that we get a chance to partner with you guys. I appreciate everything you've been doing because for us, it's about making Ohio better. And we can't be naive and think that just electing a state treasurer is what's going to do that. We got to elect a governor that believes in this. We need to elect a senator that can fight for us on the national stage that cares about this. I think we need to elect the entire Democratic statewide ticket, but also we need to elect the state representatives. Because if you elect all of us at the statewide and you forget to vote for your state representative, we still have a supermajority that we have to compete against that will literally strip our powers on day one and then tell us to go pound sand.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about helping Ohioans we talked about. And so What we're trying to do here, this is not about getting Seth Walsh elected. This is about how we help Democrats get elected across the board. The last analogy I'll make, I talk about basketball a lot, even though I don't really know basketball. Amy Acton and Sherrod Brown are like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan of the 90s. Like, they get all the points. They're the ones who are the hype, and they're out there scoring. The rest of us have to do our part. And if we do our part and get those little margins where we can convince people to trust Democrats again and trust us, we all collectively win. And so that gets back to the biggest point that you asked me, Ashley. How can people help? Well, you're part of a team, and that team can be just resharing or liking, but push the algorithm and help all the way down, because we're Democrats. We don't believe in trickle down. We believe in trickle up, and it begins at the local level. So there we go.
Wow.
You're
the trickle
incredible.
down economic. That was a beautiful way. That was a mic drop. Too bad you don't have a mic over there in your hotel room to drop right now.
I'm sure I got something, right? I got a pen.
Perfect.
Done. That's the episode. That's it. Thanks for listening. But truly, Seth, thank you for joining us. We are truly pumped for your race. Like I said, we'll have all the links and everything in the show notes for people to find you, help you. And yeah, we just look forward to supporting you through November and then seeing you in the treasurer's office come January.
I really appreciate it. And thank you for everything you guys are doing. Have me back another time. Hopefully when we're not traveling. We were supposed to land at 1:00.
I know. I'm sorry. Thank you for doing this right after a long day of travel.
This is great. We wanted to make sure we got it on, and I wore my hoodie for you guys.
I know.
So.
It looks
I know.
great
It's a nice hoodie. Yeah. I'm glad it worked out. Thank you so much, Seth.
Thanks, guys.